Hi, my name is Kendall, and today I'm going to share with you what it's like to adjust to a new life in a new country as a refugee. So when a refugee arrives in the United States, they come through the airport and they're typically greeted by a caseworker from a refugee resettlement agency. I was a caseworker for about 2 years, and I was able to learn so much about what it's like to adjust to a new country, the challenges they face, the different types of things they have to learn. So first of all, when a refugee comes through, the resettlement agency has already set up an apartment for them, typically with a lot of donated furniture and items for them based off of the size of the family. A meal is provided for the family, and it must be culturally appropriate, but sometimes that is really hard to find, which is another struggle that a refugee family goes through. So when a refugee family comes to the United States, they typically don't know how to use some of the things we use every single day. A lot of times they have never even seen these appliances before. So as a caseworker, it was my job to give an orientation and teach them how to use each one of these items in their home. I remember spending hours just teaching them how to use a stovetop, how to turn it on, making sure that the oven was off when they're finished cooking, how to use a microwave and telling them not to put foil in the microwave, not to put utensils in the microwave, only microwave safe dishes. Refugees back wherever they came from typically were washing clothes maybe in a creek, or they weren't using a washing machine. So even just showing them how to pour soap in the washing machine and do that was very important. The next thing that a refugee or refugee family learns is public transportation. They come here and they don't have a car. Some have family members who are happy to transport them around, but to a certain extent, they have to learn how to take the bus because they have to be able to get around by themselves. So the Refugee Resettlement Agency will give them a bus training. This typically takes at least 4 hours, sometimes more, depending on where the refugee lives. And they're expected to take the bus to the store to buy food, to once they get a job, really anywhere they need to go. And it's crazy because some Americans don't even know how to take the bus, and that's something that they have to learn very quickly. The next thing that a refugee has to adjust to is the language and communication. There's so many barriers with this one, and I actually work for a organization right now that offers free English classes to refugees. There's such a huge need for that. And just imagine going to a store and needing to find butter, and you don't know how to ask an employee where it is. This is such a big challenge for refugees, and it is one of the first things that they try to do is learn English. It can be very challenging. The next thing is getting a job. Refugees are expected to work immediately after they arrive in the United States. Some of them don't even really have time to learn English first. They must get a job, and a lot of jobs that refugees get are typically in factories or cleaning hotels, doing things like that where there's minimal conversations and communication, which can be very challenging for refugees. Some have to work overnight. The schedules can be crazy, so that is one thing that they have to adjust to. Also, getting their kids in school is a challenge. Imagine being a refugee kid and going to school for the first time and not knowing anyone, not even knowing the language. Everything is foreign, especially for the parent too. It can be really challenging because they don't know how to communicate with teachers. They don't know how to communicate with staff at school if there's an issue. So they have to adjust to that. They also have to adjust to the healthcare system, which can be very confusing. Most refugees get health insurance, but that can still be a challenge because health insurance can be very complicated, and scheduling doctor's appointments, which was another job that I did as a caseworker. Cultural differences and stress is very common for a refugee. A lot of refugees just are under a lot of stress with all of the things they have to do. There's so many steps they have to take. Many feel alone in that, and so there's a lot of stress when it comes to rebuilding your whole life, coming to the United States with almost nothing and starting from scratch. And so even some of the cultural differences that you may not think about are like hygiene. Some refugees aren't taught, hygiene like we are here in the United States, and so they have to learn what's appropriate and what's not. They also have to learn different things like the way we communicate here in the United States, which can be very challenging. Most refugees are very resilient. They work really hard. It takes a long time, and they struggle with a lot of things, but a lot of refugee families end up being very successful. I've seen many refugee families buy homes. I've seen them, go to college. I've seen them get good jobs and be successful. It is just very challenging, and there's a lot of things that you don't typically think about when it comes to resettling in a new country. So, in conclusion, it is a journey of resilience and growth, but many make it.